Hey everyone, and nothing makes the blind more uncomfortable than a good old game of Atari Touch Me. Yeah, I'm not fully sure what this thing is either. So, Atari Touch Me was an arcade game released in 1974. All unfortunate naming aside, it's a pretty fun game. In the game, you have to click a button corresponding to a blinking light. The game gets progressively harder with the more successful button inputs you have. The game ends when the maximum sequence of button presses are reached, or until you just make a mistake, like an absolute loser. So, if you're still confused what this game is, think of it like Simon. Later, in 1978, Atari released a handheld version of the game after game developer Ralph Baer saw potential in Atari Touch Me after the explosion in popularity of pattern games such as Simon. But enough with the boring history, let's move on to the console itself. The console is just a yellow nugget with a bunch of color on it and a couple switches. You have your on and off switch, your skill and start button, and a couple other that don't really matter. Now, before we actually play the game, one absolutely horrible thing about the system is the battery slot. Now, this thing doesn't use normal batteries like AA or AAA. No, it uses a 9-volt battery. Which is annoying because unless you're an avid battery collector, you probably won't have a 9-volt laying around. But okay, say you're a weirdo and you have like 29 volts laying around. Everything's okay, right? Wrong. Oh god, this battery slot is too small. Now this is probably because they wanted to make the console as small as possible, but I don't care, I still want to whine about it. The battery is so hard to hook up, and also, the battery cover is an absolute pain to get back on. But beyond those major complaints, I think the system itself is actually pretty good. Now moving on to discussing the life cycle of this console, I couldn't find much on it. The most concrete thing known about this system's life is that it was released in 1978. Beyond that, everything gets really fuzzy. Now, if I were to make a guess on some of the rest of its history, I'm going to say it sold relatively well, seeing that if you look online for them, they are pretty common. But I'm going to assume it didn't sell spectacularly, because not many people know of its existence, and also Simon was released before it, so that probably cut into its sales. Now, I couldn't find any info on when it ended production, but I'm going to guess it ended production at the earliest in the early 80s, or in 83 at the very latest, due to the video game crash. Though the sad part of this handheld is that barely any info is out there. Though, if you do want to pick one up, they are somewhat common compared to other poor performing consoles. I found mine in a retro gaming store for $40, and as I've seen, the price tends to hover around $40 to $50. So if you like game collecting and are interested in Atari, I would totally recommend going and picking one of these up. So that was the Atari Touch Me. A very fun video game and a very intriguing handheld console, even though it ripped off Simon. Or did Simon rip off Atari Touch Me? I made this sign so people can agree with me.